So let's talk about JSON. JSON is JavaScript object notation. It's the notation of syntax for lists and dictionaries in JavaScript, and it allows us to import and export objects to text files. And luckily for us, this format is the same that we use in Python. So essentially, we have these dictionaries here. And I can make a list of these dictionaries, for example, by just going, say, like this. Put a comma after each one. Say devices equals this list. If I do this, let's cut and paste this into our interactive session. So if I look at devices, or device, you see I've got a list of dictionaries here. So this would be another way that we could have done what we just did. Instead of defining each one separately and then making a list of all those devices, we just create one list with all the devices inside of it. And that would work equally well. Now, where JSON comes in is I can put this in a file, like the one here. So here I have a list. It's got all these dictionaries in it. So in my script, instead of defining this here in my script, instead what I want to do is I want to import the devices that I'm going to use from the file. And that way they're not hard-coded into my script, and I can change them as I need to. So let's do this. Let's say with open our file name, which is devices.json. We are going to say devices equals JSON load. Made a mistake here. We're going to open as dev file, and we're going to load the dev file. This should work equally well, and our code is less cluttered. Sure enough, we're getting the same results. So one thing I'm not happy with is the fact that I'm storing my username and password in this plain text file. So I want to change that. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out of this file. And instead I want to prompt the user of the script to input their username and password each time. Now, that's useful when you're going to run a script manually. However, if you want to schedule a script to run at a specific time, middle of the night when you're not there, then you're going to need to have a way to get the username and password without having to type it in. So in that case, you could leave it in this JSON file. So again, I'm going to work under the premise that we're in a TACX environment and the username password is going to be the same for all of our devices. So how we're going to do that? Well, the first thing we want to do is we're going to have to do our get input. So we come back here, and you notice we don't have in here, since we didn't give this file a title, we don't have the syntax highlighting that we do here in Command Runner. If I take that same code and paste it here, now I've got a syntax highlighting. So we got our get input prompt, which is great. So now what we're going to do is we are going to prompt our user for a username and password. So we're going to say username equals get input Enter username. And we're going to do the same thing with the password. We're going to be getting the username and password here, and we're going to be loading the device type and IP address here. So we need to consolidate these. So as I load each device, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that into that dictionary. Do the same thing for password. By the time it reaches here, the device should not only have the device type and IP address, but it should also have the username and password that we got from the user. Let's try it out, see if it works. Okay, it's prompting me for my username, admin, password, automate. Okay, so here's another thing I don't like. The password, clear text on the screen, that's not going to pass our audit. So how can we fix that? I'm glad you asked. We're going to go back to our script and make another modification. And we're going to say from Getpass, import Getpass. Now the reason I use this syntax to import Getpass, whereas I used a different syntax here, is because the name of the function that I'm importing is the same name as the module I'm importing it from. So if I simply did an import Getpass, when I use Getpass, I would have to say getpass.getpass, which is usable, but redundant. So we're going to use this Getpass function. And what it does is it prompts the user for a password without displaying the result on the screen. So here we had what I typed came right out on the screen. We don't want that behavior. So we are going to come here and create another function. We're going to call this get credentials. And we're going to put a comment in here. Prompts for and returns a username and password. Username's easy. We've got it right there. Now the password be a little bit trickier. Since the password's not going to print on the screen, the user might not know if they typed it correctly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the standard method of having them enter it twice, and we're going to make sure that the first time matches the second time. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to first start by initializing our password variable to none. Then we're going to create a loop. There's a while loop, and we're going to say while not password. So we're testing if password is true, and in this case it's set to none, so it's not going to be true the very first time around. So what we want to do is we want to say password Getpass. That will prompt us for our password. And then we want to prompt a second time. And we're going to use this as the verify. And we're going to give it a special prompt this time. We're going to say retry or retype your password. And now we're going to check if they're the same. If the password is not equal to the password verified, then we want to print passwords do not match. Try again. And we have to set password back to none. This way, our while loop will loop around again and prompt for the password. Now, once this while loop completes, that means the password's successfully been set, and we know the username's already been set. So we want to return the username and the password. So then here, we're going to use this function to set the username and password to get credentials. Let's see how that runs. Okay, it's asking for the username. And we already have an issue. Getpass is not defined. From Getpass, import Getpass. Okay. I mistyped Getpass. You probably noticed that all along. You're probably screaming at the screen saying, "You've mistyped it." Well, now we all know the truth. Let's try this again. Admin. Now we get the password prompt. And I'm going to type some nonsense. Type nonsense again. Hopefully they don't match. And they don't match. It says try again. This time I'm going to type the correct password. I'm going to type it correctly again. And now it's working. It's connecting to our devices. So this function is very useful, as is this one. And we're probably going to want to use this in all of our scripts. So rather than copy and paste this into all of our scripts, let's do this. Let's cut them out of here. Let's paste it into here. And let's give this file a name. Let's save as mytools.py. And here, let's import my tools. Now, one thing we have to change is we have to tell our script where to get credentials. And it's in our my tools. So now we're importing my tools. We have everything that we're going to use over and over in our scripts. We're going to keep that in a separate file, and we could just import that file into each of our scripts. And now our scripts are a little bit cleaner because we don't have those functions sitting up there in the top of our script. And in fact, we don't need to import this here. We actually need to import this here. So let's save that change and test it one more time. Perfect.